My name is Rick Roughton, 68 years of age, I think. I come from, born in England, live in South Africa, but for the last 9 years, 10 years, this has been my home. This is my wife, Mary. Away you go.
I'm also from England, and we moved to South Africa in 1981. I was a real estate agent and also a horticulturist before we decided early retirement and the sailing.
Yeah, I was in the Royal Navy for 22 years. You'd think I'd know something about ships, but I was on the aircraft side. I was in the Fleet Air Arm on aircraft carriers, so I know more about aircraft than I do about ships. But I did, after we were married, we did quite a bit of dinghy sailing, as Mary said. And then from dinghies, we sort of decided to get bigger and bigger until we went into keel boats. And then we had this idea of going around the world, and here we are.
We both have been travellers. We travelled and we always had itchy feet. We liked to visit new places and
Meet new people.
Meet new people. And the sailing was a way that we could take our home with us and
enjoy a hobby.
Enjoy a hobby which we had thoroughly enjoyed for 20 years, and we wanted to continue that. The sailing people, we found out, are extremely close-knit and very friendly. We thoroughly enjoy the people that we meet, and all the countries are so diverse that we're never bored.
People always ask you whether you're bored living on a boat, but with maintenance and the usual things of navigation and all what you have to do, and then as soon as you're in a port, you have to stock up, revittle as we call it. You need fuel, you need water, you need food. There's never a moment to be bored, really.
People often ask us, which is your favourite place? That is not a question that we can answer, because everywhere is so different. We started going from Africa through to South America. South America, they are friendly, they are energetic, they love dancing, they love music. We went from there to the Caribbean, and lots of different cultures, because the Caribbean islands had been colonised by different countries. We went through the Americas, Panama. The Pacific is a different culture altogether.
Well, when we were off Cuba, we had a period, there was no wind whatsoever, and we just sat there waiting for wind, and suddenly it started to rain, and the rain came down absolutely torrentially, which was great. We just took off all our clothes and stood there having a shower in this beautiful rain. And then it began to thunder and lighten. And when there's heavy weather, you can prepare for it. You can reduce sail and take certain measures in storms. But when it's lightning, you just have to sit there. There's nothing you can do. And we had 4 lightning strikes straddled the boat. One took the instruments out, but luckily they came back on again. But that was frightening, because there was literally nothing we could do about it. Just sit there holding hands and hoping that we went the next. So that's one memorable experience.
If lightning does strike the boat, it makes a hole in the hull and you sink.
There's a good chance.
But for storms, the highest winds we had was 2 days after leaving Cape Town. We had a force 9 gale with seas of approximately 5 to 6 meters, and we were with a flotilla of about 80 boats.
Sorry interrupting, look. It was a Cape to Rio race that we were doing.
One ship sunk, and 3 ships had to return to Cape Town, but
Two capsized.
we managed to carry on. An Argentinian boat, he capsized 3 times. It meant he rolled the boat 3 times. When he arrived in Rio de Janeiro, his boat was a very wet boat, very soggy state. But we survived, and we realised that Capensis is quite capable of seas and winds of quite strong velocity. And we have had high winds, we've had fast passages, we've had slow passages, but we pray to God, I pray to God, and he has kept us safe for 9 years.
So
our longest trip has been 31 days.
31 days, yeah.
That was across the Pacific, from the Galapagos to the Marquesas, and the next one was
The Atlantic.
the Atlantic, and that was 24 days. This last trip from the Andaman Islands to here was quite slow. It took us 11 days, and our next trip we anticipate will be about 11 days. The hardest part going across the Pacific, we had a problem with one of our halyards. We kept breaking a halyard. So
That's the line that holds the sail
and
up the top.
whilst we were sailing, it was fairly light winds. We had a Jenica flying. My husband, it was before we had self-steering, so I was sent up the mast on a chair, and my husband would winch me up so far, go back to the helm and steady the helm, back, winch me up a bit further until I got to the top, so that we could inspect what was happening at the top of the mast. And that was in the middle of the Pacific. It's the first time I've been up the mast at sea and sailing, and it was quite an exhilarating experience, but very difficult for my husband because he had to keep the boat balanced as well as keep me up the mast with a winch. We use a flexible chair, and he winches me up, and then he brings me down when I've sorted everything out. But we sailed our first 7 years without any self-steering, and
30,000 miles.
I think we were just about the only pleasure craft that was on the water without self-steering at the time. But for the last 2 years we have had a wind pilot, and that has helped us enormously with our long passages, and it allows us to rest more and to eat together. One would have to be on the helm and the other one would be having their dinner, and then we'd have to change over. So self-steering has certainly helped. But
the downside, of course, is getting on and off the boat is a lot more difficult, as you found out. This is a beautiful sheltered anchorage. A lot of anchorages are very rolly, but this is very good.